Somebody left my notebook computer up here. Hey, thank you very much, and really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to participate in this event today. It's really amazing how many folks are here today, and I'm happy to share the morning and the lunchtime with you. And by the way, if you catch me later on, we can have some talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's actually a wonderful board, and I got great stories. So it's a very, very interesting group of folks to hang out with. Well, we're talking about the state of education, and today I'm going to pay kind of particular attention to what's called STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and math. And the reason I want to focus on this is that all of us know that technology is becoming a more and more important part of our daily lives. In fact, I'll do a little test on you. How many of you own a microcontroller? A few of you. How many of you own a car? Everybody owns a car. If you own a car, you own 95 microcontrollers, just in that car alone. So technology is invading things like transportation. Of course, you've got iPhones and things like that. It's just a part of our everyday life. And, you know, it's really, really important that we have a focus on education in this area, because a lot of the technology, in fact, all of the technology is invented by the scientists, the engineers, and the folks that are driving this stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of famous engineers and scientists that you probably know. So one would be Albert Einstein, theory of relativity, very famous guy. Second, maybe a little less famous, but certainly famous for what he did. He was invent the Apple computer, so Steve Wozniak. Stephanie Pollack invented a technology that saves the lives of our military and our policemen, Kevlar. So she invented something that saves a lot of lives. And then finally, we've got the Mohawk guy, who, if you don't know, was one of the key scientists for the last rover expedition that landed on Mars. So we got a lot of famous scientists that invent really cool stuff. But in the United States, we're starting to fall behind. And if you take a look at this slide, it actually only goes through 2008. That curve with China continues to go through 2012, 13, and 14. And so there's a huge gap happening between growing countries like China and the United States. The intensity around engineering in other countries is higher than it is in the United States. Now, we're trying to do a lot of things to fix that. Freescale, for instance, has a thing called the Freescale Cup, where we encourage college students to engage in a competition, robotics kind of competition, and there's some prize money for it. And in the United States alone, we had 150 students participate. In Japan, we had 95 students participate. In Europe, there was over 300 students participating. In China last year, 24,500 students participated. There's a gap, and we've got to figure out ways to close that gap. And if we don't, we're going to start running, you know, low on innovation, which of course is the lifeblood of certainly the Austin community and a lot of our economy in general. Now, we're missing it, you know, in general. We're missing it specifically with women and underrepresented minorities, where if you take a look at the percentages up there, we've got a whole lot of capability out there that we're not tapping into. So I think, you know, STEM in general, women and underrepresented minorities, big opportunity for us. And what I'll talk about a little bit later are some of the things that we're trying to do to try to fix this and try to close that gap. Now, what's interesting is engineering provides a great opportunity, and there's great economic advantage for folks that study STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. You guys probably see the reports that students are graduating from university with a ton of debt. And what better motivator for them to say that some of the best top-paying jobs out of college are in this area. So it's a great kind of motivating fact. But there's another fact that's a little known, and that is engineers, of course, you know, studying engineering allows you to participate in the field of engineering as your employment. But you can do a lot of other things. And I've got a slide here that talks about some famous people who you probably didn't know were scientists and engineers. One is Debbie Thomas, who was a famous Olympic skater is now a surgeon, has an engineering degree. The band Boston, a bunch of students from MIT, and the lead guitarist is a mechanical engineer. If you want to get into rock and roll, be an engineer. Cool thing. In fact, Capra, famous movie director. I probably should have done this one first, but here in Texas, many of you probably don't know that Tom Landry was an engineering student. So you can be a football coach too, I guess. Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric, or the previous CEO of General Electric, the previous premier of China, is an engineer, and cartoonist Scott Adams, who you probably better know as the guy that does building, is an engineer. So engineering provides or the study of STEM in college provides an opportunity for you to do a lot of different things. Obviously, one is to be an engineer, but you can be a lot of different things because STEM is all about, discipline. It's all about thought process. It's all about problem solving, and these sorts of things can be used in a lot of different fields. In fact, there's an interesting statistic here that if you take a look at the CEOs of S&P 500 companies, 33% of those CEOs have STEM degrees. It's the largest single degree, or it's the largest representative degree in the S&P 500. And in fact, if you have a business degree, it's 11%. Now, how many of you have business degrees? Now, you weren't supposed to raise your hand. I just did that. Well, my condolences. But this is actually the percentage of CEOs that have these degrees. But of course, the percentage of students studying business versus engineering is significantly larger. So the interesting statistic is, if you have an engineering degree, you are 6 times more likely to be the CEO of a big company than if you have a business degree. And I think, again, it just provides opportunity and so forth. And so I think one of the things that we need to kind of get into the heads of kids that are sort of 14, 15 years old, sort of that age, is that engineering is about opportunity. STEM is about opportunity. And that opportunity could put you becoming a scientist like Albert Einstein, or it could put you, as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. If you want to be a lawyer, patent law is a huge, area. Being an engineer is a great pre-law degree. And if you go to a doctor's office these days, you'll see tons of technology. And engineering is kind of the new language of medicine, where it used to be kind of Latin. Engineering and science and stuff like that is I think, the new language of medicine. So great opportunities, and it provides STEM provides a great opportunity for students to do a whole range of different things. One, obviously, is engineering, but all kinds of things in addition to that. And, we've seen a lot of, I talked earlier about the technology that we own in cars and things like that, but you look at, the global warming that's going on and the issues associated with that. There's a huge thought process that technology is going to be the thing that actually fixes that, or at least limits the amount of emissions and attempts to fix that. You've seen some of that with solar, but you see that now in vehicles with higher fuel economy, in electric cars that are out there today. I noticed there was a number of electric car spaces that you could park in today. And for those of you that parked over by Dick's Sporting Goods, like my wife had to do today, if we had an electric car, we could have parked right up front. So I think the need for science and technology-oriented individuals, the demand for that is going to continue to accelerate, and our supply is not keeping up. And we need to figure out a way to close that gap. All right, so what can we do as businesses? And here I'll take a little divergence here. In business, we are fixers. We see problems, we fix problems. And I think in this particular case, it can't be that kind of approach. It needs to be a partnership. It needs to be a partnership with folks in education. We know a lot about technology. We know a lot about the demands that are in our industry. We know little about education and how that all works and what really motivates a student or a teacher, and how do we combine, or how do we join forces and really try to solve this problem? I think that's really going to be the key thing. Obviously, we need to support it financially. We need to support it by engaging in things like robotics competitions and things like that. But I think probably the most important thing we need to do is we need to sit down with many of the people who are in this room today and talk about how do we partner up and get more kids that are, again, 13, 14, 15 years old thinking about these sorts of things. The thing about science, technology, engineering, and math is you don't transfer into electrical engineering your third year in college. That decision is made way before that. And so we need to really get the kids interested at a significantly earlier age. Now, Freescale is trying to do its part. We kicked off a foundation just last year, and that foundation is going to be focused on STEM. And so we've had an enormous amount of interest in this. We've had hundreds and hundreds of grant applications, some really interesting stuff that people are doing, and we're really encouraged by this. We put an initial $5 million into that. Our goal is to get that foundation to $100 million over a period of time so we can have some serious economic impact into this community and the communities where we play. So we're really excited about that. We're going through the process right now of reviewing all those grant applications and so forth, and I think we'll be announcing sometime in the coming quarter, where the initial grants are going to. We're excited about that, and I'm personally very thrilled with the level of engagement and the level of interest that we've seen from the local communities on that. We also do things like robotics competitions and stuff like that. Engaging kids in doing these sorts of things and actually playing around with this stuff and breaking it, fixing it, and so forth is how you kind of capture them a little bit. And in fact, we had one of these robotics competitions yesterday at Freescale. It was a lot of fun because it was the employee and one of their children. And so it was a lot of fun to see, the kids get engaged in it and so forth, and of course the friendly competition that happens on something like that. And I think yesterday we probably encouraged a dozen kids a little bit further to study or continue studying science, technology, engineering, math because they saw what they could do. That was really a lot of fun to watch. And then finally, we've also announced that we are going to be the presenting sponsor at the Austin Marathon. And we will focus all of the donations where runners have people pay for their miles and what have you, is also going into STEM. So the Austin Marathon is a great thing to sponsor. We're really proud about that. In fact, Freescale, back as Motorola, was the initial kind of founding sponsor of the marathon. So it's kind of neat to have us kind of back in the game, if you will. But it all continues to circle around this whole notion of STEM. How do we get kids interested in that? There's some thought about maybe we have a robot running. Everyone's always asking me if I'm going to run a marathon. I'm not going to run a marathon. I did tell some folks though that the half marathon goes by my house, so I'm going to run the last third of the half marathon. I think I'll be able to get through that without keeling over. So it's exciting to see these sorts of things, and when we talk about the Austin Marathon, everyone always wants to know who the winner is. And because we're focusing on STEM and getting kids interested and so forth, we think the Austin Marathon winner next year is going to be our kids. We think that's really exciting. So let me wrap up. I think I've gone through my allocated time here. Let me just wrap up and say, we as a company are really committed to this as a business imperative. If we don't have kids studying science, technology, engineering, math in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and so forth, they're not going to study it in college, and we're going to run out of employees. And that'll be, a real sad, situation. We also know that it's an imperative for this country. You saw that those lines diverging between China and the United States, and you heard what I said, in terms of 24,000 students participated in that robotics competition versus 150 in the United States. We've got to fix this, or else we're going to end up as a country having a problem being competitive. And inventing the next iPhone and inventing the next iPad or the next electric car or what have you. It's a real imperative for us. With that, I want to thank you for participating in this event today. It's a lot of fun to get to meet a lot of people. I'm really encouraged about this. My wife and I moved here, a year and a quarter ago, I think, and we finally finished our house last week. But we've been renovating. As it turns out, none of our furniture in Dallas worked here. Go figure. So we've been doing a little bit of renovating. That's added to the Austin economy, believe me. But we're really excited to be a part of the community here. It's been a lot of fun. It's a great place to live. It's certainly a very warm and welcoming place, and we thank all of you for a gracious welcome. We're excited to be here. We're excited about STEM, and looking forward to a great partnership. Thank you.